Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey, and this week we have something special for you. Two of our fellow community members, Mark Phillips and Ryan Seager, invited us onto their podcast, The Masters of Resilience. The episode ended up being so great that we wanted to share it here with you as this week's episode of the Fuel Hunt Show. We talk about the origins of Fuel Hunt, choosing faith over fear, and how Drew and I built Fuel Hunt, the community, and the counter movement with its mission to restore the dignity of hard work in ourselves and in society. I know you're going to love it. Check it out.
Let's talk a little bit about Fuel Hunt, what you guys stand for, how it started, who the few are, which I know we'll get into. I'd love to hear that story as we get started.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can give you an idea of the origin story. Really, it was born out of feeling alone and feeling aggravated. But, Drew and I, and really the family we come from, we're the type of people that we don't let things happen to us. We kind of happen to things, right? Like, we'd rather take action than complain. So there's, how many years apart are we, Drew? 10?
Yeah, roughly.
Got that? Yeah, so we're 10 years apart. We're cousins, but we're 10 years apart. I crossed a lot of bridges professionally that Drew was about to cross in his career. So we used to spend a lot of time on our commutes to and from the office on the phone. I say a lot of time, it was like a solid year. Every day, at least on the way home from the office, we'd be on the phone together. And we started to notice really two themes in our offices, in our neighborhoods, and really in society as a whole, right? The first thing was people were becoming more and more entitled to what they hadn't earned. And the second was that if they were interested in earning, they were seeking more and more shortcuts to get there, right? Which they're like death sentences in our minds and in our, our families. Like, they are things you don't do. You don't expect things that you didn't earn. And when you do choose to earn things, you take the hard way. You do it right. Because along that hard path, there's a ton of gifts, like service to others, but also building skills for self. So we saw those two themes and we were like super frustrated. And after a year of talking about the same thing over and over again on the phone and seeing the same themes, we said to ourselves, we're like, we need to do something about this. And, the mantra, everybody wants to eat but few will hunt, is something that I said on the phone one day because it was in response to Drew. He was like, look, like, are we the only two people that believe in the power of hard work still? We're surrounded by, the victim mentality, entitlement, ego-driven work, right? Shortcuts. Like, are we the only two people left? And I was like, look, it's like we say in my hunting cabin, like, everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt. Everybody wants to win, few want the work. Everybody wants the results, few want the reps. And that's when Drew was like, wait, hold on, back the truck up. Like, I think what did you say? Like, I think we need to, we got to put that on a shirt or something. And it was the irony in it is, apparel didn't come until 2 years later. But what we decided in that moment was that we were going to, which sounds crazy, and it always does in the beginning, build the world's largest community of hard workers. And we were going to put society back on track. We were going to find people that believed in our core values and worked as we did. And we were just going to build an entire community of them to show the world that we were still here, and selfishly, right? So that we didn't feel so alone. So that's the origin story. Like I said, that was 2017. For 2 years, we just built community. Literally, we looked for people and drew people in that believed in what we believed in and worked the way we worked. And then in 2019, that's when our community, which was, I don't know, at that time, maybe 10, 15,000 people, they started to ask. They're like, look, I would wear that on a shirt, or you should make hats, or like, where are your stickers? And then that is what set really the company in motion, because our roots are community.
So how do you get that first 10,000 people bought into what you guys are doing?
Yeah, great question. Content, kind of like we were talking to before this.
Good. Yeah. It felt like the longest
slowest burn. Like, I don't know if it's comparable to like, I mean, in your guys' line of work, but when you're starting out in business, it's like there's always that hope that you can hit that first deal and you might be able to like pay your bills. You know what I mean? Like, and no one even talk like back to what no one talks about. Like, no one talks about the hard part of starting out in business when you get your logo, you get your polo shirts made, your business card, and you sit down at your desk and you're like, and then you have to cross the Sahara to get to your first deal. You know what I mean? Like, and it just feels like the first 1,000, 10,000, and then we're at like 200,000 almost. But like every incremental piece of growth felt like it took the Sahara all over again.
Yeah.
So I did credit to Gary Vee, who's one of the originators of the space and the personal development as we know it. But he had this framework, jab, 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 right hook. And he always talked about value, 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 deliver value, which we still to this day do painfully, even when it drives us in the red. But we were like, let's just continue to provide our community value and all work out for us one day. So we were just jabbing, no right hooks. And we're like, we had these awesome shirts, which are like, they just said everybody wants to leave a few on them, but they're not great design or whatever. We thought people would be so moved by the mantra they would want to buy them no matter how it was designed, right? But like now we know there actually has to be graphic design done and illustration to get people to want to wear it. But we're like, why are people not buying our shirts? Like these things should be moving like hotcakes, or why do we not have like why are people not actually purchasing this stuff? And we realized eventually at some point along that journey that we actually had to ask people to buy this stuff. It's like in your line of work, like in your line of work, right? Imagine never asking someone if they wanted to buy insurance.
Right. So
what was the right hook, Drew? I'm waiting on. I thought there was going to come some punchline. What was the first right hook for you guys?
So we're like, all right, we're not having any sales. Me, Joey, and the one day we famously talk about is he said we have to decide: do we have a blog or a business? Like, are we going to actually get out of our full-time jobs and figure out how to do this full-time or whatnot? So we had no idea how to run ads, but we saw Instagram had this boost post feature, and we had this banner picture that someone bought a banner that we has just going on our site, like not by our direction. They bought one of our banners. We had like a t-shirt, a hat, and a banner on there. The guy posted the picture of the banner. We saved it, reposted it, and then hit boost post, like run ad, and orders just started filing in for this banner. It had no call to action, no like buy this now. It just had like, we are the few, and it had a banner. And we called it like the faucet. And it was like, should we put $50 to this ad again and see if we get more sales? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Like
Amazing.
$50 at the time felt like thousands.
Yeah.
Like we were like, should we do it? And we're like, yeah, let's fuck it, like, let's run the risk. And then people started buying this stuff. So that's how we stumbled into paid ads, which now we know is one of the keys to scaling in e-commerce. But
Yeah, sure.
So once you get that momentum, I think momentum's such a powerful thing. So when you have momentum there, what did you find successful in keeping that going?
I mean, the crazy thing is, like, you're talking about maybe sales momentum or commerce momentum. We had a ton of goodwill and community momentum before that, right? 2017 to 2019, we're writing a blog, long form content. We're talking about, what it means to work hard, how difficult it can really be, how dark it can really be, but there's always light, giving people hope and also giving people mental frameworks to help them work hard each day, right? Talking about reframing, things like that, right? So we had a lot of momentum leading up to it. Once we found the faucet and, we were able to turn that on and off, then something happened. The world went bonkers. That was 2020. Right. So now we're like, okay, everyone is shrinking. Everybody is looking for safety. There's a lot of uncertainty. What do we do now? And Drew and I were like, well, F it. We're just going to mash on the gas. So we ended up hiring a consultant to help us with ads because at that time we really didn't know. what we didn't know. We were just boosting posts. And if you are familiar with ads, it's way more than that, right? So we hired a consultant and made that investment in 2020 to keep the momentum going. So all that momentum we built and the cash we built from the faucet that was coming in, we immediately turned and invested in a consultant to help us scale. And then that is what took us to 7 figures. Quote unquote, I just spoke at BK Live, and everybody got a kick out of it when I did the air quotes on stage and I said overnight. Quote unquote, overnight, we scaled to 7 figures because, we were able to make that investment in paid ads to keep that going. Yeah.
Joey, as you were talking about the origin story, I thought something you said was really interesting, which is you attributed your and Drew's family of origin to this mentality of hard work. And I'm really fascinated by the idea of like, why are some people wired the way that they are? And why do some people come into the world kind of expecting the world to make it work for them? So is there something about your family of origin that really gave you and Drew this mental fortitude to build something like this with this mentality?
I believe so. I think that, most of the best lessons in life are caught, not taught. And we're from blue collar families. So like all I witnessed, like I tell this story often, my parents never sat me down at the dinner table. Actually, our dinners were silent because everybody was so exhausted, right? They never sat me down at the dinner table and said, hey, this is what hard work is, and that's why you should do it. They led by example. I saw my mom work 2 jobs. I saw my dad work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. So growing up, I'm like, well, this is what I do. This is who I am. And I saw them take us from, bad neighborhoods to better neighborhoods. Like it was just through observation that I picked it up. And then later on in life, as I got older, then they kind of sat me down and were like, hey, look, these are the things we did when you were younger that you didn't see, like the hard work, So for me, that plays a big part in it. I guess that's my generation. I'm I don't even know how old I am. 42. I'm going to be 43. I think that, now with the younger generations, entitlement plays a big part. There was a decade or so of time where society was really praising what was basically required. Showing up to work, doing the work put in front of you. And there was a lot of praise given for that. I think because we were just trying to correct some societal things and we maybe didn't realize what was going to happen, but it created a wave of entitlement. And, it's starting to seep into homes and everything. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, Keywell Hunt.
I know you guys have put out a plethora of content, which, I know I've been the benefactor of over the years. And so I can appreciate that. So just a couple of themes that come to mind for me, one of which is action kills fear and inaction feeds it. I'd love to talk about that a little bit too, because I think sometimes we get stuck in this groove of paralysis by analysis or whatever, your delay or procrastination, you can call it whatever you want. But what role has that played for you guys?
In building Fuel Hunt.
Yeah, and building Fuel Hunt and getting things, continuing that momentum.
In the early years, we're still young, right? We're 7 years old, as a community, as a company. But in the early years, Drew and I did something that, if I could toot our horn for a second, was really beneficial to us. And that was every day when we were on the phone, because we were working full-time jobs while we were building Fuel Hunt up until a point, right? So every day when we were on the phone, we agreed that we were each going to take one action that evening to further the community or the company, right? So there was a ton of uncertainty. It was during, COVID. Could we even do this? We've never run e-com companies before, you know what I mean? But we decided that every night we were going to take at least one action, and we were going to hold each other accountable on that to basically keep the ball moving down the field, So Drew used to call it staying in motion. Like, we're in motion, let's stay in motion, stay in motion. Hard to stop when you're in motion. So we really didn't let inaction seep in. And even to this day, it's not all lollipops and rainbows running an organization, a company. But one thing that you can never do is freeze. Like the moment you freeze, the fear takes over. So you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving and keep taking action. Drew, you have any thoughts on that?
Just to add on that too, because like in life and in business, like there's always gonna be hard situations, right? Like there's conversations you don't want to have. You don't know if you're gonna make payroll. Your bank account's getting low, and you start to stop checking it. You know what I mean? Like and to avoid the pain. But if you, instead of avoiding it, like that's not gonna make the problem go away. You know what I mean? Like taking action to solve the problems is what actually makes them go away. So
Yeah.
I've grown accustomed to just, rather than avoiding the hard conversations or the hard tasks, I actually like to tackle them first.
We talk a lot, and you see a lot of themes on society and on social media about, barriers, right? Like, whether it's anxiety or it's fear or it's, I think when you boil it all down, it's avoidance. Like that is really the root of all of the ills. Like, we avoid, getting up early to face the day, hitting the snooze button. We avoid, maybe some past wounds we have, from childhood with drugs or alcohol, right? We avoid difficult conversations or stress with, hiding, you know what I mean? Like it's all boils back to avoidance. So like, that's the way I look at it, at least. Like if there's something I'm avoiding, I need to take action immediately, because action is the only thing that will kill all of the bad shit that comes from avoidance. Even if it's imperfect action, even if it's just like, if you're familiar with like Brian Tracy and Eat the Frog or whatever, like, if there's two frogs, like, even if you just take a bite out of one, like you gotta do something.
Yeah.
You just must.
Does the fear go away?
That's a very interesting topic that came up on the podcast with one of our friends, Pat Brady, a couple of weeks ago. I said he talked about faith and having faith and how he has this aura about him because he just knows that his person, whether it's God or whatever you believe in, right? Like he's got him, like he's got him taken care of. Because I was like, you speak so confident that everything's going to work out. And I said, or my wife the other day, we were talking, and I was like, you just think everything's always going to work out for us. She's like, yeah, like it is. And I was like, I wake up every day or don't lose sleep because I'm worried that the world's going to get pulled out from under, or the rug's going to get pulled out from under us. Like that's why I work so hard, because I don't want to lose, and I don't want everything to be taken away from us. So for me personally, I don't know, and I've talked to other entrepreneurs that feel the same, right? Like I don't know how you guys feel, but I work like someone is trying to take it from me 24/7 because I believe that they are, right? Whereas I feel like I could shift that mentality for me personally, because we're never perfect, right? Like even us being the Fuel Hunt guys, like we do have flaws and we have things we're working on every day, and that's why we post those things every day, because we know that there are thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we've reflected on and put out into the world to help our community grow and get better, as we're actively looking to grow and get better. So I think one thing I could do personally is to have more faith in myself and in the work, rather than working, like you said, Mark, about like in fear. So for me personally, the fear has not gone away yet, but I would like to say through faith in my actions and my work that it will.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the fear ever. I don't think the fear ever goes away. I mean, at least for me personally, it's never going away. It's what it is it's grip. So its grip is not as tight on me as it once was, but it's there. So like before, I would feel like, the fear kind of like had me by the neck. Now it's just the hand on my shoulder. Like I know it's there and it's still in contact with me, but on a daily basis, I'm choosing faith over fear, and that's one of the reasons and the meanings behind that line that we released. Faith, can mean different things to different people, but at the end of the day, you have to set aside your ego and say, hey, look, like I'm doing everything in my control, but I cannot control everything. And we all didn't just appear here. There's probably a higher power at play that has a plan. So I'm going to make my best laid plan. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work hard as shit on my plan. I'm going to control what I can. But at the same time, I'm going to have faith that that work is going to translate into a greater plan and take it where we go, you know?
I think the experience aspect too,
So
you know, when you look back, I think the just the roll time plays in that too. It's like, okay, the longer I do this, the more things I've faced.
Yeah.
The fear, to your point, Joy, the fear doesn't go away, but I'm like, I've faced obstacles before and I've figured out a way over them, around them, under them, somehow, some way. And so I know as you become a more resourceful human, inevitably you find a way to figure it out.
For sure. I have a funny saying that when we're going through some hard shit here, sometimes I get chuckles, sometimes I don't, but I say, we have a 100% survival rate. As we're above ground. Like we got 100% survival rate. We're going to make this happen.
Yeah,
you know?
that's good. Joe, man, guys, thank you for sharing too. I just to go back to that conversation of fear, Ryan and I talk about it often, and we approach it from that faith perspective. Faith has been a big part of our journeys. And building a business has been one of the most faith testing experiences of my life. Nothing short about it. It's probably marriage and faith are probably the two, or excuse me, and business are probably the two things that have tested the faith. I love that faith over fear comment, Joey.
Yeah.
And I have a quote. There's a guy named Erwin McManus who's actually a pastor of a church out in LA called Mosaic. And he says, if you're afraid of heights, you'll stay low. If you're afraid of people, you stay alone. If you're afraid of the dark, you stay in the light. Your fear establishes the boundaries of your freedom.
I love that.
And it's just like, it's all right there. And that analogy of like, you feel that fear. And I don't, even as a person of faith, I don't think we're called to not have fear. I think fear is going to come, and it's an emotion we will feel, and we need to process it. I think stifling it or pushing it down is a real recipe for disaster as well. Like honor that emotion.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Process it and then move it forward.
Like stifling it and pushing it away is also, you know, my faith. Entrepreneurship has tested my faith, and my faith has grown over the years because of it. And I'm grateful for that. Yeah. When you stifle fear, or when you push it away, or you act like it's not there, you're actually refusing to trust in your higher power. You're refusing to accept the gift, you know what I mean, of support that your higher power wants to give you, you know? And like, I did that for years. You know what I mean? I did that for years. And then Drew will tell you, like, you know, the past 12 to 18 months have been transformative for me with my faith. And I grew up, I worked in a church. I was a sacristan, you know, altar boy. Like I was like in it, and then kind of lost my way a little bit. And in the past 12 to 18 months, like I'm back, baby.
That's cool.
Awesome, man.
I think that, you know, entrepreneurship has played a big part in that.
Yeah.
To open my eyes again.
Well, there's a fundamental disconnect between religion and experiential faith.
Yeah.
Those are two very, very different things.
Oh,
and I think religion has, you know, it has a place in our society, but a lot of people have had frustrations with it. And I think rightfully so. But Joey, I resonate so deeply, man. It is a gift when the work you get to do and that you love also tests the things that kind of motivate you as well. So it's super cool.
For sure. I held on.
It's been so easy that he's had time to sit and reflect on his faith.
Right, just doing a lot of reading, a lot of meditation and prayer. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
It's only solitude. It's
exactly.
I was so pumped to see the reception of our faith over fear, our faith not fear line when we put it out. I held on to it for a little while, to be honest. I wasn't sure how it would be received. But when we put it out there, literally, it touched so many people. And, you know, put the devil in the dirt and remember this is what you prayed for. It just resonated with such a large part of our community. I was like, yeah, man, let's go. So you'll see more of that from us moving forward.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So good. Well, let's talk a little bit about community too, because I know the few is a big emphasis on community and finding that for whatever, whatever that may be for given people. But how has that been for you guys in terms of it being a pillar and how you built your business?
I mean, that's what we are. I mean, even when I started the show, I always say we're community first. We that's how we started, and that's how we always will be. We did things differently, right? Like, I think nowadays, especially in the world of e-com, and especially with some of the generational things we're dealing with, a lot of people start businesses and they say, I want to make a shitload of money. And nothing wrong with that. But I got to sell something to do that. So what am I going to sell? And then they say, okay, this thing I'm going to sell, who's going to buy my shit? Who are they? And then they find the people. And then somewhere down the road, they staple on like a purpose. And they say, oh, and by the way, this is why I'm doing this, And I'm not trying to generalize, not everybody, but I see it a lot, specifically in the e-com space. We did it the other way around. Like, we knew why we were here. We're like, we're going to build the world's largest community of hard workers. We're going to put society back on track. We're going to restore the dignity of hard work. You know what I mean? We're going to rally a community around our 3 pillars: freedom, hard work, service to others. Those 3 things. So we knew our purpose, right? And then we found our people, right? And that's the community. And then later came the product and, the profit. So community is our core. It's our heart. It's who we are, who we always will be. And that makes us different. That's our differentiator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this, not sure, they strive for that, but not sure how to start, what would you say?
So we, in reflection over the years, we have, 5 things that we do and we do really well. And that's what helped us build the community that we have. So, I always say first, number 1, numero uno, is make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons. And the right reason is service to others. Your purpose has to be rooted in serving many. It sounds like you guys probably, I'm not a theologian by any means. I'm an amateur when it comes to the Bible, but it seems like you guys may be familiar with it. You look that up. You look up in the Bible how to get everything you want, how to be great, and it says, find a way to serve many.
Yeah.
Right. So numero uno, I would say, make sure that you have a why that serves many, truly. And then after that, then you can kind of get into like the 5 C's that we do, which is confront, converse, challenge, cheer, and then convert. They're the 5 C's. So confront meaning like you got to stand for something, right? So what is it? What is the dragon that you're going to confront and rally people around, right? Converse, you're going to talk about it every single day, what it means to stand for X, Y, or Z, right? Then you're going to challenge your people. We do the 30 for 30 challenge in our community, and then, we also have like a 1 for 1 challenge, all sorts of stuff. You're going to challenge your people. Then you're going to cheer them, when they participate. You're going to cheer their wins. You're going to cheer their losses because they're on the path. And then, and only then, if you have something for them where they can exchange their hard-earned dollars, then you can talk about convert or conversion. That's kind of how we've run, and we didn't know what we were doing in the beginning, but after a few, reflection now over the years, that's been the pattern.
So what is that conversion, that last C? What is that?
Yeah,
elaborate on that a little bit.
So that's the physical product or service that you would have, that your community can exchange their hard-earned dollars for. Because look, like, communities, if we are not profitable, we are not here. Like, we don't exist, So we came to that realization early on that if we want this to have the impact that we want it to have, we need income, Yeah, Drew, go ahead.
The one thing I was going to mention is that a lot of people have community nowadays. It seems that every brand or company is surrounding their mission or their message with community. And I think authenticity is lacked in our space and a lot of spaces as well. But that being said, there is a necessity for planning. So we set out to create the largest community of hard workers when we should have also had a plan how to execute that profitably. Because if you don't, like Joey said, if you don't have a profitable business, you don't have a community.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't survive off of vibrations. You know what I mean? So,
Drew, what does
part.
authenticity mean to you?
Oh, that's a really good question, but in my opinion, so Instagram nowadays specifically is filled with a highlight reel, right? It's a lot of people's best versions of themselves on their best days. And it can have a lot of people feeling like they're not good enough or don't fit in. And that is also applicable to brands and companies and their message. Whereas we are giving you the real hard facts and truths. It's other brands maybe watering down their messages or saying they have a community when actually they just want to sell you their product. So I think there's a fine line, and it's up to us to decipher what's true, real, and authentic and what's not. And also not getting, and this is something we work on too, but not getting down on yourself when you feel like you're not good enough, because we've seen other brands that have come up and their community, and it looks like they're doing great on the outside, but we've surpassed them and lasted longer, like you said, Ryan, like staying in the game longer. You know what I mean? Just 100% survival rate, but because all we've seen is their metrics and their numbers and what they post on Instagram, where what might actually not be the truth, whereas that applies to our personal brand as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the authenticity is, I made a comment about, when I talked about sharing wins and losses. And I think that's at the root of authenticity for a human, being able to build the best version of you with the intention of giving it away to the world. But along that route, showing both your wins and your losses, there ain't no wins. There's no wins without the losses. No W's without L's. Like, the L's are required. So, like, we are how egotistical are we at times to think that like we can just show everybody wins and not show them what it really took to get there. You know what I mean? Like, how egotistical is that? You know what I mean? And like, we all do it. I do it. We all do it. But like, when you really step back from it, it's like, man, like, you really thought you could be successful in whatever venture it is without like the pain, without the failure, without the loss.
Right.
Like, how egotistical is that?
And no one, regardless of what it says on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, no one is winning all the time, right? But it seems that way. I'm like, damn, do I suck? Like,
am I just a really bad singer? What's the deal here? Yeah.
Am I bad at everything? Like, why are all these people crushing life 24/7?
Yeah.
There was a quote.
Really
there was a
good.
quote on I think it was James Clear's Thursday newsletter, and I texted it to Mark because I'm like, you're trying to, I'm like, what are we, making sure we're clear on what we're about here at Masters of Resilience, and same thing with you guys. And I think there's a lot of parallels to this quote, but he said, one of the things that he said was, stories of failure resonate more than stories of success. Few people reach the top, but everyone has failed, including those who eventually succeed. If you're teaching people to succeed in a given field or talking about your own success, start with how you failed. I was like, honestly, it's like the most relatable thing for people, because you do, Drew, to your point, you get these Instagram reels of, the best 15 seconds of my life in the last day or whatever it is. And it's like, that's not a reality. That's not a reality. So I think when we speak into the failures and the hard, like, those are the things that I think people are craving.
For sure.
To that point, we actually had a friend of mine, Aaron Hine, the CEO of Life Aid, on our podcast a few weeks ago. And he told us, which I've known him for a while, and he told the story of his come up story, but he actually bought a bunch of houses before the real estate market crashed and had to file bankruptcy. This guy's a CEO of a multi $1,000,000 company, like, doing great now, but actually had to
Mm-hmm.
commit file bankruptcy at one point in his life, and the fact that he bounced back from that just shows you that we're not all like on the outside. He was a thriving chiropractor with a great business, but ended up not being the case. But he didn't let that hold him back from what he became in the future.
Yeah. There's maybe you guys can guess, but our number one mantra in our community, and also happens to be our number one best-selling tea in the community, in the world, really. You guys want to take a guess, or you want me to spoil the surprise for you?
Comfort is a slow death, I'm guessing.
That is correct. Comfort is a slow death.
Nice, Ryan.
Prefer pain.
That's right.
Why do you think that is? It's because pain is an adhesive.
What do you mean adhesive, Joey?
So not only does it make you whole, but it brings people together. You know, it's, you have a really hard day at the office. I know a lot of people that want to just go and, you know, bang and clang at the gym, you know, put themselves under some pressure, you know, do something hard. It can close your wounds, and it's also very relatable. So that people that have gone through pain, that have pain in their past, that are working to turn it, to translate it, to transmute it into power in the present and the future, those people coming together in community, right, accelerates everybody's progress. So it's an adhesive. It not only can heal your own wounds, but it can bring you together with others and actually accelerate your progress. You know, we still have people that will clown that mantra. Like if we run, you know, just paid traffic at a new audience or something, we'll have some commenters like, oh, prefer pain. Like I enjoy my couch, like, you know, things like that.
Or
And
even like tell that to
You're
my herniated discs. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right, dude.
And like,
I think we're missing it here. Yeah.
I don't want to go too far on the biohacking health train, but like maybe if you did a little more extra research and got uncomfortable, you could know there's ways to alleviate that back pain.
We could go down a hole. We could do a whole podcast on that.
I don't want to be that guy.
Oh,
it's
man.
pain is literally the greatest teacher. And I feel like if you have experienced that in your life, you understand immediately when you see that mantra, when you see that roll with you, when you see that tea, you get it. You're like, wait a second, they're my people.
Yeah.
Good, man.
I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis has a quote on pain, going back to the God discussion. He says, God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain.
Yeah.
It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
Yep. Yeah. I love that quote.
Yeah.
I love that quote. A lot of
But what
parallels
is
to entrepreneurship, jujitsu, all sorts of
it's
stuff.
out of control. Hey, what does that mean for us as fathers and what we do with our kids?
Yeah. Comfort, slow death and pain and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, we could even make a lot of ties to parenthood too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that is, you know, in many ways, it's complete self-sacrifice. I think, you know, it's, you make a decision that you are going to sacrifice everything and give the best of everything you have to grow another little human. And, you know, there's material, you know, implications of that can sometimes be painful if you've ever paid a daycare bill. But I think we've had multiple, you guys probably have had multiple at daycare at the same time. But then, you know, there's also on the flip side of it, you know, uncomfortable things that you need to do on a daily basis to make sure you're raising them right. You know, emotional regulation, you know what I mean? Being the example and leading by example, not using too many words. You know, like there's a lot of uncomfortable things that need to be done on a daily basis to make sure that you're equipping your children to do the hard work in a soft world, we'll say.
I really think it's only applicable for the few or guys like us that are working hard to actually be good parents. Like, is it really painful for people that don't really try? Because again, now being so, I'm involved in youth sports, but you just see the behavior of some of these kids, right? And I'm just like, back to what Joey was saying about being from blue collar families, just knowing what's tolerated. And you see the way some of these kids act on the ball field.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, my mom would have came on that baseball field and literally grabbed me by the ear and if she saw me acting like this. So
that's so good.
I think it really becomes, like Joey said, painful to draw the parallel there if you're really actually trying to be a good father or leader for your family, right? Because a lot of people choose comfort. They just have kids for themselves rather than to build other great humans.
Yeah, it's easy, man. Like you have a hard day. Like it's really comfortable to come home and just sit on the couch and like let your child like fend for themselves with their homework. And like, what do they send in? Mediocre homework, like learn mediocre lessons, like see a bunch of average ass behavior every day. Nah, like I'm with it. Like if I'm sick, they're going to see me getting up, going, you know what I mean? Coming to HQ. They're going to see me training. They're going to come with me to jujitsu. Like, they're going to see all the hard stuff. You know what I mean? 'Cause I never want them to see me being average ever.
Dang.
You know what I mean? Even average, like
Yeah,
I'm saying, emotional regulation. Like, I don't want them, like, dude, I'm not perfect. Like I lose my temper sometimes. Like that kills me because I'm like, man, like I just gave them an average ass reaction. Like that is some average shit. And I have, 2 daughters and, how can I word it? They're going to, the behavior they see in me is the behavior they're going to seek one day in another man. I'm the example. So if I'm doing all this average ass shit, who are they going to end up with? Like, it's going to be acceptable for them to choose somebody that's just average later on in life, And that's, it's hard day in, day out. You guys know, your dads,
A former sales director of mine and a formidable person in my life said to me when I was about to have my son, he said, anyone can be a dad, but not everyone can be a father. And that quote, it's always stuck with me, even like since day one.
Man, that's a good word.
Hell yeah.
I think just owning it too. Like I think owning some of the, I mean, I would lose track if I even started to count how many times I've, reacted and not responded to kids. But even just the other day, you're like, you blow up. And I think it's just saying, hey, you may be a 5-year-old, but he needs to see me own up to a shortcoming and be like, you know what, buddy, I'm sorry I did that. I was wrong. And I think that's an important skill for them to learn.
Oh, for sure.
100%. There's been plenty of times I've been like, you know what, dude, my bad. Like you didn't deserve it. That's my bad. That was on me, dude.
That's right.
I just did it this morning. We have something going on like in the house. We do a lot of stuff in the house. Fuel hunt type stuff, my household. But one thing I just put in play is like a point system, right? Because my girls are like super competitive, right? I'm competitive. My wife's competitive. So like, if they're kind to somebody or they do some hard work, they gain points. Points translate to dollars. Dollars do things, whatever they want. They want to buy something or whatever.
That's a dangerous game, cuz.
So what I did though when I started it was like I was like the bestower of the points. You know what I'm saying? And like 2 weeks into it, I was like, man, I'm doing this wrong. I was like, you should be able to give me points and take my points away too. Nice. So now they can do that to me. So now it's reciprocal. You know what I'm saying? So now the moments where I'm like, when I sit them down, I'm like, look, my bad. Like I shouldn't have reacted that way. They're like 5 points.
5 points.
You've just been docked 5 points. I'm like,
I hate it, but I love it. It's
cool.
Simultaneous. Yeah,
it's cool.
Man, I love that. It's really good. And Drew, you said something that struck me, which is, that someone who isn't trying to be a father is they're not choosing pain, but I think it's just pain transferred. It's either going to manifest itself as pain in that child's life, or in some way it's just you're kicking the can down the road, and you're allowing somebody else to take on the burden of your own self-responsibility instead of you owning the activities that you need to do day in and day out. So it's
a very, not to toot my own horn, but my son takes a trash can. He's 9. He takes the trash cans down to the curb and collects the trash. And people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you get your son to take the trash can down to the curb. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, if I asked my kid to do that, he would have a fit. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Like, there we got a problem. Yeah.
But I started teaching him how to do the trash out when he was like 2, and I remember one time specifically, I tell this story often, but he threw a fit. He was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I was like, I could choose easy right now and just do it myself. Like, obviously I could just take the trash out. Like, it's not that hard. But I suffered through that 10 minutes of him not wanting to do it just for me to hold his hand on the trash can and take it down. But ever since that day, like, as far as I can remember, it's been just something he does. And like asking him to do things that are hard nowadays is like not hard at all.
Yeah, you got to walk through the hard with them in those moments to let them
exactly
figure that out. Yeah. One of these other concepts too, guys, that I've been reading more about and listening about, and maybe you have too, but this concept of high agency, and I think it goes back to, Joey, one of your original comments, just to sum it up, is happening to life and not letting life just happen to you. And I think there's a lot to unpack with that. And I think, again, you can get some criticisms of people who are like, well, I can't prevent cancer, or you fill in the blank. And I think it's less about that, more about there's going to be things that happen and I don't have control over it, but I think the response versus the react is a huge thing. So I'd love to get your take on that idea too.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. We can't control what happens to us, but we can always control something, and you just look for what you can control, and that's where you focus your energy. That's basically what it comes down to, the respond react thing for me. No matter how easy it is or how hard it is, that's how I operate.
It really goes back to, and Ryan, like you said, like, can you prevent cancer though? Like, there was a period in my life, like I hadn't been anxiety as a kid, and this goes back to like childhood trauma or whatnot. But like, I always had maybe childhood trauma expressed through anxiety, but at a point in my adult life, I got real bad like health anxiety, like worrying about like dying or like cancer or some kind of illness. So I was also at the time reading a lot of like the Jocko stuff and things like that, and I was like, all right, like I can sit here and worry about dying of cancer or some disease that I might get, or I can, and that's when I got super immersed in the health and biohacking and doing everything I could, because everyone likes to make fun, like, oh, like, you're gonna die someday. I'm like, okay, well, it's not gonna be for a reason that I'm in control of. If there's any kind of way I can stave off death or cancer, like, I'm gonna be the one in charge of it, and I'm gonna do it. So that's how I approached anxiety in my life.
I think like you mentioned worrying, and I think the recipe for happiness is really like, don't worry, do work. Like, that's my thing. But it's super hard. It's hard not to worry. It's hard not to worry that something's going to happen to you. The happen to things is the work part, right? And the only way, and Drew's helped me with this over the years, him and Brianna have been big forces in my life for this, on this Fuel Hunt journey, is gratitude. Something that, I was always grateful. I was never entitled. I was always grateful for what I had, but it wasn't a muscle that I flexed every day, if that makes sense. Like, I waited until like I had to flex it. Then I flexed it. It wasn't a muscle that I was working every day, and they've helped me do that. Truly being grateful for the blessings I have, as well as the challenges, has helped me not to worry. It's helped me reframe the worry and then translate it into work. That's when I think about happenings, that's kind of where it comes back to for me, because I'm like, hey, look, like, some shit's gonna happen to us, but let me reframe this and think about the things that have happened that are great, and the things that I can make happen in the future.
And you got to flex the gratitude muscle even when you don't want to too, right? Like, when times are hard and shit's going wrong, it's like, that's the time to be grateful. Like, someone else would kill for your problems. And like, Brianna, my sister, she's our base operations manager, but she'll call me and be like, oh, it's been a really rough day, really bad day. I'm like, oh, what kind of cancer did you get diagnosed with? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to, like,
oh man,
but you have to, that's truly how, in my brain, like, that's how I think. I'm like, okay, like I'm here, right? Like, I'm alive another day. Like that's how you have
that's
to
good.
operate, in my opinion.
There's two famous quotes, and I don't know who to attribute them to, so you might have to fact check me, but or maybe I'll get fact checked after the show. But the first one is, if you took all the wealth in the world and you divided it evenly amongst everybody, in like a year's time, it would all be back in the same hands. That's the first one. And then the second one, these are two that I remind myself of often. The second one is, if everybody put all their problems in the pot, someone would gladly grab yours before. You know what I mean? So like, being grateful.
That's really good.
Yeah. Mark and I have said it a number of times, but I think the pressure is a privilege is a real profound statement that I think, I can get so hung up on the things we haven't done yet. And Joey, your gratitude point is so spot on, because I think it's so important to look back and be like, all right, if I were to tell myself 5 years ago that I would have accomplished this, that, and the other thing, like I would be thrilled. But, it's just like the goalpost just keeps kind of creeping further down the field. It's hard.
Yeah, I think that's a personal decision for everybody, right? It's like high achievers, hard chargers like we are, and the few are, success is a sliding scale, and it always will be. But I think individually as a person, you need to sit down and you need to say like, when is enough enough? And that doesn't mean you stop working, maybe it's enough of one thing, but not another, it's a very personal decision. All I know is it takes a lot of hard work to get to that decision. So that's what we're going to keep doing over here, restoring the dignity in that so everybody can get there.
And when you commit to growth to the grave, like one of our rules of the few, like, and just like consistently growing, it's so easy to fall into that trap too, right? Like, and I do feel, and we've been victim of this, when you get to a certain level and you take your foot off the gas a little bit, like that's when, and the comfort starts to creep in, like that's when things start to unravel. So it's like finding that perfect balance of like continuous growth and also not being so hard on yourself that you don't self-sabotage.
Yeah. Hormozy said it recently, and I know it's a quote from somebody else, back in the day, but it's about like high achievers, right? And their makeup, right? And there's 3 things that they kind of all have in common. And maybe you just have heard it before, but they can delay gratification, right? They think that they can do much more and be better than everybody else. But then there's the kicker, the last one, and this lines up with what Drew mentioned. They're insanely difficult on themselves, and they feel like they are less than other people. And it's a crazy makeup, dude. It's a crazy makeup because you feel one day in entrepreneurship, you're on top of the world, you're freaking king of the castle. And then the next day you feel like a serf, like a peasant. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
So it's like, it's a wild journey, but Drew's spot on when he says like trying to dial that mix in, day by day.
So just from a tangible perspective, what are you guys doing from a reading perspective, habits that you're doing daily? What things have worked for you?
Drew, you got some routines. Why don't you take it?
I mean, I do my daily gratitude journal. Are you guys familiar with the 5-minute journal in the morning? It's like basically jot down like quick, like 3 things you're grateful for, good things that happened that day or the day before, like and how you're gonna make the day. Love that. How you're gonna make the day be. But I mean, as far as things I read, like I'm always continually reading like the Ryan Holiday. Like we're in a season of business where I haven't been reading as much, but I like to mix in. I'm curious how you guys feel about it, but like I'll be in a stoic phase or a philosophy phase, and then I'll go to like a science fiction phase. Yeah. But I think for business and for writing, like a lot of my thoughts come from all of the books, right? The business books, the philosophy books, the science fiction books. Like there's just, I like to say that I've learned more in my reading than I did in my years of college. Realistically, like I don't know if you guys agree, but I'm always continuously reading. But as far as recently, I'm reading How to Heal Your Eyes. So that's my current book of choice.
Is it working?
I haven't applied the workouts yet, but it's like take off your glasses and see is the book that it's called. But apparently it's like ancient Chinese like eye workouts because it's like and we're getting off tangent here, but
sign me up. Sign me up.
they say glasses are like the Western world's way of like a pill for every ill, right? Like it's like when you break your ankle, they don't say put on this cast forever. They say put on this cast temporarily while your ankle heals.
Wow.
So I will get back to you guys on that.
I'm gonna need to check in on that. Joey.
I'm
into that kind of stuff.
When we run this podcast back, I won't be wearing glasses.
Deal. I'm gonna hold you accountable to that. That's good.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I have. I'm very, I guess, ritualistic. I've boiled my life down to really 3 things, and it's family, fuel hunt, and jujitsu. So I'm an addition by subtraction type of guy. So I do less from a routine standpoint than I did in the past. But my mornings are pretty straightforward. Wake up, drink some water, get to work. I do read the rules of the few, and I do read a daily devotional before the work. But I keep it pretty simple, man. I have my days time blocked. I know when I'm going to be doing fuel homework. I know when I'm going to be training jiu-jitsu, and I know when I'll be with my family in the evening. Straight away, that's it. And I'm just learning to say no to a lot, and it's been freeing and fulfilling, and it's actually helped me serve more people. So, yeah. That's what's working for me now. As far as reading, Dark Side of Discipline by Craig Ballantyne. If you guys haven't picked that up.
I'm halfway through the pod that you guys just had him on.
We did. Yeah.
He is a fan favorite. He's a different animal.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah, very cool. This is great. So as we wrap here, if you guys you've put out a lot of content, but if there was one principle that you had to highlight for listeners, what would you note?
Yeah, Joe, take it. What do you got? You want me to go first?
No, I mean, I will say the one that sticks the most with me, and this goes back to the theme of the show we just did here, but this is what you prayed for is something we put out periodically that seems to stick, but just reminds me that like everything, all the problems I have now that I would have gladly taken 10 years ago.
Yep. For me, we have a lot, and we have a lot of frameworks and things, but if I had to choose one, I would say the few energy, right? Like every day bring the few energy, and the few energy is a mix of three things: grit, gratitude, and go. And we touched on all of those things during the show. I think that if you focus on those 3 things every day, so like being gritty and scrappy and being resourceful, you know what I mean? Not letting things happen to you, happening to things, right? Grit, gratitude, we've talked about being so grateful for your blessings, but just as grateful for your challenges. And then the go portion, which we talked about, taking action, taking ownership. You know what I mean? Not falling into the inaction trap or the fear trap. The few energy, bringing that every single day through those 3 channels would be something that I would want everybody to take away.
Well said. It's a good place to leave it. Well, we appreciate you guys and all you're doing. So keep doing it. We love to keep promoting you guys as best as we can. I know our listener base is
growing.
Should be bought in and growing and be bought into.
Is there more than getting on the website and getting a shirt to become part of the few, fellas? What is required to be part of the few?
So that is a great question, and we get it often. The way I frame it is come join the community. So either follow us on Instagram or join our email list. Selfishly, I would say join our email list, since one of my favorite things to do is write emails to the community.
Nice.
So do one of those 2 things. But know that there's going to come a point where you feel compelled to rep the few. So definitely, you know what I mean? Like wear the words because we need our gear on back so that people can understand that we're out there and we're working hard to restore the dignity of hard work. But yes, join us on Instagram or on our email list.
Well, next time we're together, Mark and I will be sporting the faith over fear. For sure.
We'll
send you some gear.
Yeah, we'll send you some gear. We'll get a taste.
You guys, it's
Appreciate
been great. Well, guys, thanks for
guys.
jamming with us. This is awesome. Appreciate you guys.
We appreciate the opportunity, guys. We really do.
Thanks for taking time.